Chase Young is taking pot shots at head coach Ron Rivera and the Washington Commanders. Going to let you know what Young had to say about the Commanders' culture here in just a second. Then also, I've got my Week 10 takeaways. I got 4 of them to share with you guys. That's coming up here in just a moment. But first, kick off today's show by giving me a one-word reaction to yesterday's loss, 29-26 versus the Seattle Seahawks. And with that, let's get into today's show. Shots have been fired, people, as former Commanders edge rusher, now 49ers edge rusher, Chase Young has absolutely taken a swipe at the Commanders culture and the guy that runs it, head coach Ron Rivera. This is what Young had to say in a recent press conference. Just stepping in here for today, got in here last week, just the culture, the vibe is a lot different. I definitely know that I'm in a building with winners. Ouch! And this is what Ron Rivera, head coach of the Commanders, had to say in response to Chase's comments. I like the direction we're headed. I think culturally it's in a really solid place. I do think that for the most part, things can be very bright for us if it continues to go in the right direction. As far as Chase is concerned and his comments, I really appreciate who he is for us and who he was for us. So this is a really classy response by Ron Rivera because, let's just face it, Chase Young straight up called out his ass in front of a national audience, and he just says, yeah, man, just really appreciate the guy. I mean, goodness gracious, I don't think I would have had the whetherwall to be that classy about this situation here, especially somebody that you drafted number 2 overall, right? But at the end of the day, whether or not I agree with Chase Young actually saying that and actually sending that pot shot in the direction of the Commanders, I'm not sure if he's wrong, right? The culture here with the Washington Commanders under head coach Ron Rivera has been one of mediocrity over these last 3 seasons. Outside of the playoff picture, it seems like every single year they win just enough games to be just outside the playoff picture, and that's not where we want to be moving forward when it comes to this franchise. We want to be in the playoff picture. We want to be in the NFC East divisional crown race every single year, and we want to get into a position here where we feel like we're making progress towards building a championship team. And with Ron Rivera right now, especially after a 4-6 start to this season, I mean, you could definitely make an argument that Chase Young isn't exactly wrong with his comments here about the Commanders being a losing culture. But let me know what you guys think about the Commanders culture under head coach Ron Rivera right now down there in the comments section with our pinned comment today. Do the Commanders have a winning culture with Ron Rivera? Type yes or type no when YouTube throws you the ad break here in just a couple of seconds. Answer today's pinned question with a yes or no. So now let's get into some takeaways from this Week 10 loss versus the Seattle Seahawks. I got 4 of them to share with you guys. But first, let's take a look at the scoreboard and what the leaders look like for each team. Brian Robinson was both the leading rusher and leading receiver for the Washington Commanders yesterday afternoon. 119 yards receiving on 2 really big-time receptions plus a touchdown. And then Sam Howell, we'll get into him here in just a little bit. Really nice performance for him as well. Final score 29-26. The Commanders drive right down the field to tie the game at 26. A great clutch drive from Sam Howell, getting a last-minute touchdown pass to De'Ami Brown. Really tight window, really fantastic. But then with a minute left to go, the Seahawks with Geno Smith and DK Metcalf drive right down the field for a game-winning field goal. Very disappointing, and another close game on the road against a playoff caliber opponent that the Commanders just fall short of. So number 1 here, my number 1 takeaway is I know a lot of people on Commanders Twitter right now are saying it's time to fire Ron Rivera, right? And they might be right about that, but I'm not going to say this game itself was Ron Rivera's fault. There's a lot of people that criticize Rivera's choice to go for the 1-point after attempt versus the 2-point conversion that would have put the Commanders up by 1 with a minute left to go. I said on our watch party yesterday, if I were in the head coaching chair and I had the decision, I would say, Sam Howell, go ahead, go win us the football game right now. We're not going to put this in the hands of the Seattle Seahawks offense. But, I mean, regardless, even if Joey Sly makes that missed PAT that he had in the first half, even if Ron Rivera goes for 2 and the Commanders are up 2, right, that field goal is 3 points, right? The Seattle Seahawks still would have won this football game. So overall, I'm not blaming Ron Rivera overall for this game. If you want to blame him overall for the 4-6 start to the season, that's fine. But when it comes to this game in particular, I don't think the blame is with the head coach. But I do think that the blame is with some coaches and even a player here. I'm going to let you know who I blame for this loss here in just a second. But first, I want to tell you about today's sponsor at Prize Picks. And let me tell you, man, ever since we started partnering with Prize Picks, I have not been able to put this app down. I've been making money hand over fist because I know ball. And if you know ball as well, you can make some great money with our friends at Prize Picks today. It's a real money, skill-based daily fantasy sports game. And you might be asking yourselves, how does daily fantasy sports work? Well, here's how. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can even win 25 times your money on any entry. So let's take a look at my entry for Monday Night Football here between the Bills and Broncos. I am going to be doing my entry on some Buffalo Bills players tonight. I got the more on rushing yards for Josh Allen. I think he's going to get more than 34.5 rushing yards. I'm going to take the less on James Cook. I think Josh Allen's more of the run game for the Buffalo Bills at this point in the season. And I'm going to take the more on Stephon Diggs receiving yards. He's their number one weapon. I'm really excited to see him play tonight. If you want to get your picks in before Monday Night Football tonight, you can do that right now. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a deposit match up to $100 today. At Prize Picks, you aren't competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available on the Prize Picks app instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks that are just looking to take advantage of you. With Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So get started right away. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS at prizepicks.com/CLNS for a deposit match up to $100 today. So the 2 guys that I'm blaming for this loss here is the defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, a coach, and then also a cornerback, Benjamin St-Juste, for his performance, specifically in the fourth quarter, in the waning moments when he was going up against DK Metcalf. So, I looked at the stats at the box score yesterday, and I was shocked. I was like, is this even a real number? You give up 489 yards, almost 500 yards of offense in a single game. And somehow you're within 3 points. The Commanders, if you really think about it, were lucky to be within 3 points in this football game after giving up that many yards in this game, man. Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks were marching it down the field all game long. They had the ball the entire game, it seemed like, and they almost put up 500 yards as a result. And then DK Metcalf, especially in the fourth quarter, absolutely ate. He had 7 receptions for 98 yards, which is 14 yards per catch. I mean, that is just absolutely putrid. So who was the guy that was on DK Metcalf? Well, it was Benjamin St-Juste. He gave up a number of not only penalties, he had a pass interference and a face mask in the fourth quarter. And then on that final drive for Seattle, he was the guy on DK Metcalf and gave up those big yardage gains that allowed the Seahawks to put in that game-winning field goal. So if I'm blaming 2 people, I'm going to go with the defensive coordinator that gave up almost 500 yards of offense in the game, and then I'm also going to put blame on Benjamin St-Juste for not covering DK Metcalf's ass there in the final few minutes. But who do you blame for this loss versus the Seattle Seahawks? Is it Ron Rivera? Is it somebody on the offense? Is it somebody on the defense? Is it Jack Del Rio? Let me know down there in the comment section who you blame for this loss to the Seattle Seahawks and point the finger. All right, number 3 on my list of takeaways here is that Sam Howell is him. He is the franchise quarterback for the future here in Washington, bar none. All right, I've said before that I'm pretty sure this guy's the guy, but after this game against the Seattle Seahawks, and let's face it, man, this Seattle Seahawks defense, they're no joke. They've got a really good secondary. Their pass rush is top 10 in the league in sacks, right? So these guys can get after some quarterbacks, and this guy had 312 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And then also, what was super impressive about Sam Howell is that the Seahawks knew he was throwing the football in the later stages of the fourth quarter. They knew he had to throw the ball down the field to his receivers, and Sam Howell still delivered the game-tying touchdown pass, which tells me this guy's got the moxie, this guy's got the ability to target down the field even when the defense knows he's going there, and that's something that maybe 15, maybe 20 quarterbacks in this league actually have. This guy is a starting capable player in this league already, and he's only 11 starts in, guys. He's only going to get better as his progression continues to move on here over the next half of this year, and then also going into next year. I feel really, really good about where Sam Howell is in his development right now. I believe he's the franchise quarterback, and I think he's been massively impressive through 11 starts. You might be saying, the defense maybe not so great. Maybe we need to get a new head coach. But I don't think the Commanders need to worry about quarterback. I think they're set here at this position, the most important in all of sports. Then we got the final one here, which is that the Commanders are now hanging by a thread. And I saw a lot of comments in the watch party yesterday saying we need to win this football game against the Seahawks. And listen, it would have been a really, really huge win if you come away with a victory there. But right now you're sitting at 4-6. That's third in the NFC East. And really, if you're being realistic about it right now, you got to win 5 of your last 7 games of the season to just get to 9-8, to just put yourself in position to make the playoffs. So let's take a look at the remaining schedule for our Washington Commanders here. You've got the Giants next week. Then you got the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Dolphins at home. That one's an interesting matchup. The Rams, Jets on the road. You got the 49ers at home. And then you finish off the season with the Dallas Cowboys at FedEx Field. The same matchup and as Week 18 last year, right? That you got the victory. And so, in my opinion, the Commanders have to win 5 of these last 7 matchups to get to 9-8. If you get to 9-8, you put yourself in position to potentially get into the NFC playoff picture. Right now, the Seahawks and Minnesota Vikings have a pretty decent cushion in terms of those final 2 playoff spots in the NFC. But listen, the roadmap is still there for the Washington Commanders to potentially make a push here. You got the Giants game next week. That needs to be a win. The Rams game in Week 15. That needs to be a win. Same thing with the Jets in Week 16. I also think that of the remaining 4 games there, Cowboys, Dolphins, 49ers, Cowboys, you got to win 2 of those football games, all right? Those are going to be the tougher games on your schedule. And right now, I think you could potentially even sweep the Dallas Cowboys. Producer Coop says there's no way they do it. I say there's some way that we do it. Last time the Commanders played the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, they absolutely killed them. And then Week 18, the Commanders need to make the playoffs. I think they beat the Cowgirls at home in Week 18. Now, if you lose to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, I don't think the season is over. I think that game against the Dolphins at home is absolutely a winnable football game. It's a warm weather team going to the Commanders' home stadium here at FedEx Field in the cold. It's going to be in November, right, or in December at that point. It's going to be cold. The Dolphins are not going to be comfortable, so that's a potential game to watch out for as well. But you got to win 5 of these final 7 matchups, in my opinion, to make the playoffs. So let me know, what is the percent chance that the Washington Commanders end up making the playoffs? I'll give them a 5 to 10% chance at this point, but let me know what you guys think. On a scale of 0 to 100, Producer Coop is putting up zeros on the screen here. Prove him wrong here. Let me know right now, scale of 0 to 100, what is the percent chance our Commanders make the playoffs? All right, that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button down below for more Commanders news and rumors coverage throughout the week leading up to this Giants game here in Week 11.